All right. This episode, man, how's everyone doing today, guys? My name is T. Coates, and this is Falcon and Winter Soldier, Episode 2, The Star-Spangled Man. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much what part of this episode is, I guess. It's just the fact that the new Captain America, who's named John Walker, and I said in the last video that we didn't get his name. We got his name technically in the credits, and yeah. So this one we get to see his backstory. We get to see kind of his backstory, I guess, and just his overall character. And he's played by freaking Kurt Russell, Kurt Russell's kid. Definitely, yeah. All right, so it's interesting to see how this episode works, because with these two episodes, you kind of can see the formula that they have is like, you have your serious moments with the characters, and you build on the lore, you build on the story, and then you have at least one action sequence that's pretty freaking cool. This one was cool. I like it's if you guys seen the trailer, it's the truck chase with you have the two trucks, and you have Bucky and Falcon fighting on top, below, all that. And yeah, that was a cool sequence. But leading up to it, let's talk about this. So I like how we start with the new Captain America, John Walker, who he's not just some random dude that they just. Well, I mean, technically speaking, he is a random dude. Well, I mean, he's a war hero. He's won multiple medals of honor. He seems to be a very dedicated person and wants to do what's right and try to live up to the mantle of Captain America. Like he has a scene with his girlfriend and even his partner where he's like, this is tough. But I like how it's just the fact that he doesn't like the fact that he's kind of at first he seems to be just a publicity stunt, kind of like Steve was back in the first Avenger movie, because he's doing all these shows, interviews, special guest appearances. I mean, there's action figures of him. He does signings. He takes pictures with people, but for him, he wants to actually take action. He wants to get out into the field and actually do some missions and stuff. And I thought they weren't gonna do that. I thought they were gonna say, no, you're just a publicity. You're just doing this to give people hope, because that's kind of what they're referring to in that last episode, giving America something to look for, and you're not going to do any action. Boy, he gets in the way. He does work in this episode, but leading up to it is interesting, because I was genuinely surprised when he shows up in the truck sequence, basically, and when he shows up, I was a little caught off guard. I'm like, wait, what? He's actually here? I mean, he holds his own. I mean, they failed the mission, but he did hold his own in the fight. Granted, he did use a firearm, but when we see him actually throw the shield, and he's pretty efficient with the shield. He seems to know how to use it, and so it's cool to see that this guy has skills, and he isn't just some dude in a costume. He can fight. He can do some good moves. He even saves his partner from becoming part of the road, I guess, because his partner falls off the truck, and literally in quick instinct, he throws the shield under his partner right before he hits the street, and basically his partner slides on it like a sled, so he doesn't get hurt. And it's cool. So he has his morals, he has a character, and he does seem like if he's given if he goes down the right path, he could be a good hero. That said, there is that fact that this isn't a Captain America that Sam or Bucky are fond of. And that's kind of part of the episode. And I think from what I heard, there's only going to be 6 episodes in this series, in this season or series for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And a part of me, and this episode definitely shows it, because because they give you a lot in this episode, because I mean the story with John Walker, the new Cap, Sam and Bucky's banter, the more info about the Flag Smashers and how they're kind of this group. Yeah, there's a lot. So after all the Walker talk, yeah, I guess it kind of runs. We then get to see Bucky and Sam's reaction to his interview, like, what he says and everything. And it's interesting to hear him talk about this stuff, because, like, when he's not on camera, when he's just talking to his partner and his girlfriend, he does seem like a genuinely sound person. But when he's on camera, he does say a lot of good things, but he drops a few lines in there that on the surface are good lines, but when you actually think about them and you think about the characters that Steve Rogers has been with, those are kind of okay, weird, like he says, like, I never met him, but I imagine he'd be proud, or I felt like I knew him. And it's like, lines like that, I'm like, okay, because he talked about that he followed Cap. He's like followed Cap in his story, what he did, everything that he accomplished, and so he basically feels like, I feel like I know him. And, you have those, yeah, and it's like, when you say stuff like that, I felt it was like, okay, yeah, no, that's not, that doesn't, because we all feel like if we do enough research, if we do enough back-check in history, we feel like we can know any person, but in reality, you don't really know a person until you actually meet them and talk to them and actually understand them as a person. Like, that's when you can say, I know this person. So when Walker said, I know Cap, I can understand why Sam and Bucky were like, okay, no. And it's weird with how quickly Bucky and Sam get back together, they meet up. Because Sam is going on a mission to track down the Flag Smashers, and Bucky just literally shows up out of nowhere. Like, I kind of was hoping he would do kind of like a spy kind of act where, Sam is just getting ready to go, and he's like, and Torres would be like, so you sure? You think you could do, you sure you can handle these guys on your own? And then Falcon could be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then Bucky's like, really? You gonna handle me or Cap? You can handle me or Steve or something like that. And just show up out of nowhere. But Falcon could be like, what the hell are you doing here? Something like that. But he shows up pretty much out of nowhere. He shows up and he just gets straight to the point, really. He's like, why the heck did you give up the shield? And, and I like the idea of Sam and Bucky having to clash with that being the main topic. Like, they do the buddy cop bickering and stuff. Like, they have these, some of them hit, others don't. There are a few that don't. They're not like full-on cringe or groans, but I'm like, okay, that was supposed to be funny. I didn't laugh. So, yeah. But, but yeah, the main beef between the two right now is the fact that Steve gave Sam the shield, thus making him the new Captain America, and Sam turned it down. So Bucky, in turn, feels like Sam betrayed Cap. And so obviously he doesn't he hates that fact. But they also drop this in the episode too, and it's later when they're both with the psychiatrist, that that scene where they're sitting like this and they're having the staring contest. They put that was such a weird, that was a weird one, actually. They're because they're looking at each other, the psychiatrist says, get closer, and so they do, like, they interlock their legs, or like, their knees, and it's like pretty, they're like, are we close enough? And it's like, and I love it, and then Bucky just glances downward and he's like, we're pretty close. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was a weird one. Okay, actually, maybe there were a few cringy moments, but um, yeah. So Bucky tags along with Sam on the Flag Smashers mission because I like this. Because Sam's like, that's not important right now. The Cap mantle's not important right now. And Bucky's like, what could possibly be more important? And then Sam shows Bucky the situation that they have with the Flag Smashers, and so Bucky's like, okay, let's go and deal with this, and then we'll talk about the Cap shit. Makes sense that why he would tag along then, because he'd be like, well, I'm a dude with a freaking bionic arm, might as well make this quick. And I like how, even though Bucky is a trained assassin soldier, he still doesn't know a lot of different ways to get, to be a full-on agent, I guess, because at first it seems like, this is probably, I got a huge laugh out of this. The scene where, he's up in the plane with Sam, and he's like, what's the plan? And Sam doesn't tell him anything, and he just jumps out. I love how Bucky, he looks out, and he's like, well, we're too low for a chute. And he just jumps, and then he falls, I think they said it was 200 feet. He falls, crashes into some trees, and lands on the ground. And it looked pretty brutal, but then they just throw this in where you hear Sam on the comm just say, I got all that on camera, right? I bursted out laughing when I heard that, and then his red wing hovers in and just with the camera, and it's like, oh my god, yes. It's moments like that where I can see them two bickering work, and yeah. But, they go in, they find the Flag Smashers, and it's interesting because at first, Bucky is really persistent on trying to shut the whole thing down, right then and there, but Sam's like, whoa, let's wait and see what they're actually doing, why they're here, what are they stealing, what yada, and they even stated in this, it's like, the Flag Smashers is pretty much kind of like Robin Hood, because they steal, because they were stealing medicine, vaccines, all that to give to this camp that formed after everyone came back, because, when you have half the population of the planet come back out of nowhere, you're suddenly going to have some refugees in places, so that's basically what the Flag Smashers were doing, and it's interesting that, yeah, that's kind of their purpose, is they kind of, they're like, this rebellious group that are trying, in their minds, I guess, trying to do the right thing. But of course, it makes one wonder how far are they willing to go, because we soon find out that that not just one dude has powers, but the whole team has powers, and more specifically, super soldiers' powers. Because man, oh man, do they give Bucky and Sam a beating in this. Well, I mean, they give Bucky a beating because Sam is mostly flying around the trucks and he's trying to avoid being attacked, but Bucky being on top of the truck, he takes a beating in this. He really gets and it's weird. Yeah, it's interesting how they open up this plot line, that because it is weird because in the movies, with Cap and his super soldier serum, they always talked about how so many people tried to replicate it. So many people tried to remake the super soldier serum. And in Civil War, we kind of got the idea that the Winter Soldier serum, the Winter Soldier thing was kind of was the super soldier serum. And in that, we know that for a time we thought, oh, okay, Bucky and Cap are the only super soldiers left. But in this episode, we find out that no, there's more super soldier serum out there, or was out there. Who knows if it's still out there? So these 8 people in the Flag Smashers have them, and they use it pretty well in this episode, because they, like I said, they gave Bucky a beating, and they even hold off. They hold off Walker and his partner, who show up literally out of nowhere, because they come in on a helicopter and Walker just comes in with the shield, literally knocks a guy out, and it does catch you by surprise that he's in there, and he does try to gain the trust of Falcon and Bucky, but not really well, in my opinion, because he keeps talking about, he's like, look, I get it, I get it, I get it, you don't like me being Cap, but come on, we gotta work together. It's like, he doesn't really give a full-on reason. Like, he tries to keep saying, he's like, yeah, I get it, I'm not Steve, but it would make sense if I were gonna be a new Captain America. He always starts off to, like, with the good persuasion, but then it just ends with like a line like that. It's like, he's like, if I want to be a good hero, I need the Cap's wingman, right? It's like, okay, nope, you're not doing it right. And eventually, well, I mean, okay, so back to the truck scene. Like I said, Walker used his shield to save his partner from becoming part of the road, but then Walker loses the truck, and you can see the frustration in his face, like they kind of got beat. He really couldn't point. He doesn't really point fingers at anyone. He doesn't even admit that he failed. He's just like, well, we got some super soldiers, huh? Yeah, and the big three: androids, aliens, or wizards. God, that's so ridiculous. I mean, I like how now it's like super soldiers, so the big four. But man, so yeah, so Bucky and Sam, like I said, they don't trust this new Cap. They don't trust Walker, and it makes sense why they don't trust Walker. And I thought with how Walker at the beginning of the episode was, I thought he was gonna try and actually prove it, like say, okay, I get it, you guys don't trust me, but what can I do to earn that trust, or something. Like, he doesn't ask them, like, what should I do in order to earn your trust, or what can I do. Like, he just, like, says, okay, guys, you gotta work with me, and of course, by the end of the episode, he pretty much has it with them, and he basically states that if you're not with me, you're against me. And it's like, okay, let's see how that goes. I mean, I know the Walker in the comics, he has an interesting history with all that. But, oh, man, it's crazy to think how all this goes. And the leader of the Flag Smashers is also crew. It's the redhead girl redhead girl. Again, if you've seen the trailers, you know which girl I'm talking about. She doesn't have too much in this, in terms of her backstory. I mean, I can tell she really cares about her team. Like, one of her teammates sacrifices themselves in order for them to get away, and she genuinely embraces him, and, she feels bad that had to happen. And it's interesting, but for most of it, it's just her being, like, the leader, reminding them why they're doing this, one world, no borders, all that, yada, yada, yada. And I'm interested to see more of her backstory, and I imagine hopefully we get more of her backstory, because if we don't, then that's just another throwaway Marvel villain, and I really don't want that right now. Especially with the director, whatever his name was, in WandaVision. Again, that's how wasted he was in that. Like, at first it started off pretty promising, but then they just ended him with, like, yeah, he's in jail. Like, really? And so, back to the super soldier thing, I like how Bucky, kind of in the way, he kind of has to trust Sam in the situation, even though he himself can't really trust Sam. Because so when Sam's trying to figure out how the heck are these Flag Smasher super soldiers, Bucky takes Sam to a house in Baltimore where they find a Korean War vet. And apparently this Korean War vet fought Bucky off, and even destroyed part of Bucky's arm, as they say. Like, the guy said, like the dude says, like, I wanted him to come to see if he either finished me off or the rest of his metal arm grew back. And it's like, well, it grew back. But it turns out that this Korean vet was also a super soldier. Like, they gave him some kind of super soldier serum, because he has strength, and he doesn't look like he's someone, like he's in his 80s or 70s even. He looks like someone who's in his 50s and his 60s, actually. And because I'm like the Korean War, that was, you know, my grandfather fought in the Korean War. He's in his 80s, and so I imagine for this guy, he has to be in his 80s, but he doesn't look like he's in his 80s with because of the super soldier serum. So, and it's just, you just see, and it's a black guy too, so you just see the pain in his eyes when he talks about the past, because he's like, I did literally the dirty work for the US. I was given these powers, and what was I given? And what did I get in return? I was locked in a cell for 30 or 20 to 30 years, I think. It was a long time. Like, they said they experimented on him. They did everything, and they just gave him nothing out of it. And of course, no one knew. That's the other thing. No one knew that there was another Captain America-esque person out there. So that's probably the kicker out of all, is like, he was given these powers, but in return, he was kept a secret, and he pretty much was told to just go live a life and pretend like none of this happened. That's crazy to think about, especially for the fact that this is a black guy. And it's a war veteran to top it all off. That is just literally, that just hurts. And in this whole scene, all of this is then followed by Sam having a moment with a cop. And I'm not kidding, this whole sequence I was very uncomfortable with, because it starts off like this, because they leave the house and Bucky and Sam get into an argument because Sam's like, how did you not, why didn't you tell me this? And he's like, and Bucky's like, I wanted to protect the truth from him, for him. Like, protect that fact. And then Sam's like, did you even tell Steve? And he's like, no. He's like, no. And he's like, because I didn't want Steve to know. I felt like he shouldn't have known. I wanted to protect him from the truth. And I wanted to protect this guy from the truth. And they're in the middle of the street, they're arguing. And then literally out of the corner, like in one of the shots, you see a cop car in the background. The second I saw that cop car, I'm like, oh no, we're in trouble. And wouldn't you know, the siren, in a few moments later, the sirens go off and the cop car shows up, and literally the cops get out, and their hands are on their guns, like right here, and it's like, what in the heck is going on? And the whole time their hands are on these guns, and they're just like, is everything here? Is everything good here? Or is there a problem? And they were like, no, there's not a problem. There's like, the kicker out of all of this is the second they figure out this guy's Falcon, they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, sir. I am so sorry. It's like, there's a scene similar to this in The Boys, and that one was interesting too, because if you guys haven't seen The Boys, I won't dive too much into it, but if you guys know which scene I'm talking about, it's A-Train in a store. I'm just gonna stop with that. So, yeah, the second they just, it's hard to, I mean, I can never fully understand. I will never fully understand what it's like to be treated differently because of the color of my skin. I can never experience that for them. But I know for the fact, but I've grown up with, okay, I'm just, no. Racism is just, it's terrible. It really is. And just the fact that as the years go on, it just seems like we're not even moving in terms of fixing all this. It's just hard. I mean, it's just hard it's hard to even look outside and say, yeah, no one is going to be judged for how they are. When in reality, every single day, a person is being judged. It's so stupid. Alright, let's continue. So after Bucky and Sam, so Sam, ironically though, Bucky is the one who gets arrested because apparently he missed his therapy session, so he has to be taken in, and so that's how they get into the therapy. That's how he and Sam talk with the therapist, and that's when they have their talk about, like, Bucky's like, why'd you give up the shield? And Sam's pretty much like, it's not me. But then Bucky takes it a step further, saying like, well, if you didn't want to take the shield. That means Cap. What if that means Cap could? That means Steve was wrong about you. And that drives me crazy because then it makes me wonder about if he was wrong about me. And it's like, yeah, that's a good point. It's like, because it's like Steve, Steve gave Sam the mantle of Captain America because he trusted him with it. And Sam just turned it away. He didn't want it. So the fact that he kind of in a way breaks Steve's trust in that moment, it makes sense why Bucky is all of a sudden paranoid about if Steve was wrong about Sam, maybe he's wrong about me. And it's crazy to think about that. And it's, of course, they don't really make amends with that. They just leave that open. But I like how they're still talking about all this. It's like, well, I mean, Bucky is more of just like, the sooner we get this done, the sooner we can deal with the Captain America crap. And I swear to freaking Christ, the way they end this episode, I'm just like, okay, where is Hannibal Lecter when you need him? Like, seriously, the way they wrap up this episode, I'm like, what is this? Silence of the freaking Lambs with the way they're introducing Zemo? Yeah, and big shock, Zemo comes back. Zemo's coming back. But it's like but it's because at first you think, oh, maybe Zemo's the leader of the Flag Smash or something. No, he's not the leader. He's still in jail. And so it's like, well, how are we supposed to catch these super soldiers? And it's like, well, maybe we should find someone who might know a thing or two about these guys. And so it's Zemo. And it's, again, his cell is literally it's like freaking Hannibal Lecter's cell in Silence of the Lambs, except instead of him standing in the middle of the cell, it's him just sitting down. It's him sitting on a seat in the back. And he's looking down, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's still Hannibal Lecter in my mind. Like, I mean, it's not Hannibal Lecter, but I just got serious Silence of the Lambs vibes out of that. But, yeah, a lot happens in this episode, and most of it's good. I think the only thing that drags this episode down is the bickering between Falcon and Bucky. Like, for the most part, their bickering is solid or good, but there are times where it does get a little weird, cringy, and I would say, yeah, maybe even groans. I don't really, yeah. But again, it's a good episode. I like this, and if this is only 6 episodes, I understand why there's a lot in this. So maybe in the next episode, we're going to get a lot, and it's going to feel like, wow, definitely feel like we're halfway through this story. But right now, it's like, this is a good setup. And I'm excited to see where we go from here. So, yeah. Alright, well, hope you guys enjoyed that video, and see you in the next one.